Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about a very large snowstorm, winter storm that is incoming into the beginning part of this work week. It is not that far away. This thing will be peaking in intensity around Tuesday and Wednesday, but its impacts have already begun across the western United States, and we'll be tracking this thing as it rips through the mountains into the Midwest and into the plains and eventually into the Northeast and southern Canada. This thing can bring anything from very heavy snow to very strong, potentially concerning and dangerous severe weather. So there's a lot of aspects to this system, and the pattern after this looks also very chaotic and active. So let me start, showing you this before I get too far ahead of myself with any other distractions I may talk about. So let's start showing you the GFS model. So this is a good model that I've been using for quite a while now. I use it pretty frequently, as much as the European, and I usually base my forecast mainly off these two models, especially storms, obviously, that are a bit further away. So notice we do have that one storm system that's pretty much all rain, right? That's going to be occurring into this upcoming night, into the overnight hours, so this is definitely something we want to address. Notice it will be transitioning into some snow for my southern Canadian folks that watch from Quebec. You will definitely be picking up a few inches of snow from this, so that is definitely something to note. Notice over across the rest of the United States, this will be falling mainly in the form of rain, so that's not really much of a concern, excluding maybe northern Maine, where some of that snow could fall. What we do want to start focusing on is now this system that is currently beginning to move in across the northwest. Notice some very heavy snow across Cascades will be produced because of this. We also have a second piece of this that will kind of split off from the piece that we're really trying to focus in on, and this one will be developing and hitting the the southern plains of Canada, the prairies, into tomorrow and Monday. Notice this thing won't be really necessarily bringing too much snow. There will be some. It will have some strong winds, and this could still obviously create some pretty nasty impacts in terms of maybe some even localized blizzard conditions, especially across those open areas. Notice across Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, we do see that snow spread from that second piece, the one we're interested about, and this thing really intensifies once it reaches the plains, and you can see we have that low pressure Colorado low. It develops off kind of in Colorado, and then it starts intensifying. Notice we have quite a bit of banding from this. I do believe the European has a better handle on this part of the system, this initial phase when it comes out of the plain, so I'll show you that in just a second. However, the GFS is in relatively good agreement with the European, so there are just a few small differences. But notice cities like Minneapolis, from this system, from this winter storm, you will be definitely seeing your first big accumulating event. I know that you guys have seen a few inches already, but this one will definitely be one that, it's going to be plowable. Nebraska, South Dakota, into portions of northern Iowa, not Idaho, Wisconsin, into the UP, will also be seeing some snow. And of course, Colorado, Denver, picking up some snow. This is where we could also see that severe weather on Tuesday across the south. So Louisiana, Arkansas, this is where we have that strong flow from the south, that really potent storm developing towards the north. So the Storm Prediction Center already has a enhanced issued for that area on Tuesday, which is still 4 days away. So I do believe a moderate will be issued, and for anyone that tracks severe weather, a moderate is something that's uncomfortably high, usually considered a severe weather outbreak day, and hopefully it doesn't become a memorable one, because that usually means something bad happened. But again, here's the area of risk that they're really concerned about. Again, the categorical risks are still not displayed because it's still too far away, but you could assume tornado and hail are probably some of the bigger threats, including winds as well, especially later on in the day once these thunderstorms have individually at first come into a line. So let's go back to the GFS, because this is just the beginning of the system, but by this point we already have several areas to watch. Notice Minnesota, Wisconsin, continuously seeing that snow. This may not look incredibly impressive, but some of these snowfall rates, because of these really contrasting temperatures, this warm air from the south, cold air from the north, will lead to some pretty enhanced snowfall rates, especially across Minnesota and Wisconsin. That could lead to even some double-digit amounts out of a relatively measly looking band of snow there. Notice the rain really starts picking up, and this is where the system develops into a very big system. So notice the millibars, 995, so relatively strong. As it crosses Lake Superior, drops 5 millibars. We see a racing cold front behind this, even potentially transitioning some of this rain into snow on the backside of this. Notice severe weather continuing across the south. Michigan, with all that cold air, you're going to be seeing some lake effect. Notice 986 millibars. The winds from this are going to be extremely powerful. Most likely, we're going to avoid blizzard conditions across that initial burst of snow from Minnesota into the Colorado area. But as this thing winds up, especially across southern Canada, and as that cold front catches up to a lot of that snow, so cities like Toronto, you may be dealing with some nasty, nasty rain snow mixing. The higher elevations of Pennsylvania and West Virginia also seeing some potentially winter weather advisory criteria, maybe some storm warnings there, as those higher elevations will be seeing snow with extremely strong winds. And yes, this thing just turns into a wind machine. You can see how powerful that is. 976 millibars. That is a beast. So a lot of my southern Canadian folks living in this area, you will get impacted by this in pretty much the biggest way that you can be from a system as such. Notice that the warm air really or the cold air doesn't stay along for long, and we see a massive system moving in towards Northern California and the west into the early part of the late part of this week, and you can see that could bring a lot of snow for California, and it could come in several waves. So that is definitely something we have to watch for. So just from the GFS, if you take a look at the total snowfall, there will be some pretty impressive amounts. Let's limit it to to Friday. Notice across that Minnesota area again, that stripe of potentially heavy snow, and then obviously blowing up here as that blizzard kind of takes shape across Ontario and portions of Quebec. Notice in terms of the total rainfall, it's also going to be significant, but a lot of this is taken from that first event that we're going to be seeing today into tomorrow, but still, especially towards the south, there could be some pretty handsome amounts of rainfall. So that's from the GFS model, and let me show you now the European model, which I do believe has a slightly better handle on this system. So notice, again, very similar. Today we have that system pushing away. We'll drop a few inches across Quebec, so that snowfall footprint, definitely something I want to address because all eyes may be on this system, but this one definitely could still surprise a thing or two, and obviously maybe create some thunderstorm potential even as far north as again, Massachusetts, Connecticut. You won't see severe weather, but a few rumbles of thunder possible with some heavier downpours. Notice we have that system moving in, one from the north, again, pretty strong winds with that one across the prairies there, and then that main one that we're watching, you can see that band gets really strewn out there across the plains. We see Minnesota, Iowa. Again, look at those rates of snowfall. They get intense pretty quickly, and this starts as early as maybe even late Monday for some areas across Nebraska, and then into Minnesota on Tuesday. Notice we have that severe weather that the European definitely shows exploding in strength. And yes, this thing will be undergoing a significant intensification process. A lot of icing, Lake Superior, ships, whatnot. The marine weather will be extremely impacted by this across all the Great Lakes, as these winds are going to be incredible. The system itself, you can see 989 isn't too strong. I mean, it's a strong storm, right? A 981, you can see the European intensifies it even quicker than a GFS, but with the help of the high pressure that is bringing in this cold winds, it kind of creates this alley of very, very strong winds. So you'll have gusts well into the 40, 50 mile per hour range on land. Across the open waters, you could see knots approaching 40, 50, even 60. Obviously, the rain from this will be pretty significant, especially if you do see any sort of training. And you can see that the European really develops this into a massive storm. 975 millibars, that is a strong system. Definitely, one that doesn't typically happen too often. We do have very heavy rain across the northeast, and look at that. I mean, that is incredible wind field from that thing as it plows through and delivers potentially some very heavy rain towards the northeast there. So that's the European interpretation, and it too, like the GFS, shows a second system moving in around Thursday, Friday. This thing is also something to watch for, not only across California, where it could be jumping loads of snow and rain, but also what it does further across the U.S. as the models start disagreeing here. You can see a lot of them not really showing anything in particular coming of it, more of a, you can see, kind of disorganized storm, but that is definitely something that could change, and we'll have to wait and see for that if it, starts maybe flirting with some cold. I mean, look at all that cold air that kind of settles in later on in the early December timeframe. Could definitely be impressive. All right, so the European model snowfall footprint is also obviously even more significant than the GFS, especially across the United States as this system intensifies a bit earlier. Notice as I click on it, this is assuming a 10-to-1 ratio, and a lot of this will be falling in slightly colder temperatures than what normally we would find in a 10-to-1 ratio event. So some of these amounts, again, I would not be surprised to see some double-digit amounts even in Minnesota, and obviously near the UP, especially near Marquette, well, just west of Marquette, definitely maybe even a foot and a half. Across the western United States, also very significant amounts. Some of the snow is that new system starting to make in, but across the northwest, Washington, Idaho, that's pretty much all the snow from today's event, or from this event, plus maybe another one coming in there, so it's a bit hard to track that. But notice across southern Canada, obviously that snowfall footprint also really significant, and we will have to watch for that. In terms of the surface And precipitation, sorry, I wanted to show you the rainfall. You can see also significant potential across the northeast, as well as the system kind of intensifies. What I can't show you really are the winds on such a chart, but I can show you this thing, which is a 10-meter wind. So it's my best. I can do my best job here trying to show you this, but it's going to be hard. But notice there's that system, right? 975. So across the lakes, again, you'll have knots in the 40, maybe even 50 knots plus. And yeah, this thing really turns into a wind machine. So this thing's going to have, yeah, it's going to be working with this high pressure right here. It's going to be creating some powerful, powerful winds. And, you know, these things aren't usually as accurate, these maps, as you'd like, but just from this footprint of the storm, you can see that they're going to be pretty strong, pretty significant. So that's that. That's a European. I could show you the Canadian, which is another model that I use. Let's show its snowfall footprint. I won't track out the whole system for you because that takes a little bit longer. And I do believe I already did that with the Canadian and the European. Or sorry, GFS and a European, and that's really the best two models in my opinion. This one's a kind of a tertiary model, but notice it does follow a similar track, just maybe a bit further towards the south of the Twin Cities, but does develop it into a stronger storm as it passes there, and potentially it shows some mixing even as far south as Ohio Valley. And then you can see as I click on this further, it shows a snowy pattern kind of in the longer range. I could show you another model, which is the UK Met. So this is a United Kingdom model. It's obviously not as good as a GFS or the European, but it's still something I like to look at. Total snowfall, you can see 144 hours out. It shows that similar swath of snow, and it doesn't, I believe, yeah, it doesn't have a MSLP precip option or simulated radar option, so it just shows us a snowfall footprint, but it's still pretty significant, and that rainfall footprint just through Friday, which is also rather significant. I could show you also a German model, which is another model that is on this website. Again, not really my preferred one, but it's definitely something that we could take a glance at. And notice there it is. There's that first system, and then there's that main area showing the band of snow that, you know, kind of whips it out of there a bit quicker, the Icon model, but it also ends up developing the system into a very significant wind machine. And yeah, that you can see that plows off Canadian coast. They all show that secondary storm, by the way, across Canada. Look at what the Icon model does. Just all that rain kind of stalls it out. That, you know, those amounts will be rather significant, and there's some, you know, agreements with that. So total accumulated precip from that, obviously, the model right there showing, you know, 12 inches plus. That's a bit exaggerated, most likely, but yeah, you know, that definitely could be good if you get some rain there. Hopefully not too much. Again, I'm really concerned about the severe weather. You know, it's definitely something we'll have to watch for, and it seems as if the Storm Prediction Center is also very worried about it. I'll obviously keep you updated on that. And if you take a look at the ensembles, so these are many models combined, and this is a good tool to use when you look at what the, you know, trend is with the track. Notice yesterday, this is what I was still talking about with that system. Lesser confidence, but this is the average of what all the models in the ensembles showed. So you can see they were starting to target this area. As of midnight, yesterday, you can see there's more agreement. You can see it's more similar to what we're dealing with. And you can see today is even more agreement, and I'm assuming in the next few days there will be more and more agreement as these models, you know, get more into agreement as the system is less further out. And in the long range, you can see they obviously disagree, and we just see a kind of a broad expansion of snow. But look at the west here. Some of these amounts here are pretty significant, and definitely could be, you know, well into the 50-60 inch range there. So that's definitely something to note. All right, that's basically it, guys, though. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.